Hello, everybody, and welcome back for our post-series segment. 1-1, everybody.
It's actually
that was nuts.
Oh my God,
that
you're
was
back.
Yeah.
I've
been here the whole time.
King,
what are you talking
so
about?
Much. I'm sorry. There's another guy that looked kind of like you, but he was calling in from a gym, and I don't know.
Oh, I was just told I was between series. That's weird. Okay, I'll look into that. Sorry about that. But guys, I was watching that game. That was absolutely nuts at the end right there. That team fight came down to the wire, but Team Liquid were able to edge it out in probably the closest game we've seen. But one of the earlier fights, I wanted to give us an opportunity to go back, because Cub, you actually called this out during the stream itself. We had a replay, so we missed the setup, but I want to point out what's happening on the map here. Evil Geniuses see Bradley alone in the top lane, try and go for a pick onto him while Team Liquid's on the Dragon. Team Liquid secure the objective, and then they try and answer with the likes of Galio ult and the teleport as well from Bjergsen. But then, this is the point that you had, Cubby. During this choke point, Evil Geniuses play this so well. And look at this. Soligo hits everybody with that encore. That encore literally saves this entire play. I think Team Liquid could just run through that choke point if it weren't for that Seraphine play. And then we wanted to just watch the rest of this as well, so that way we can actually get a look at how the setup for the Baron happened. So I'm hoping that we actually have that correct here. Team Liquid, they're able to just respawn onto the map, and Evil Geniuses, they've lost a couple of their members, and honestly, they just don't get up in time because they died after. So, like, Team Liquid, they respawn, and everyone says, run to Baron. We see them on the map. We know the respawn timers. And maybe if EG read this, they could have just ran right to it.
Oh, okay. I see it.
But they passed bot instead.
Yeah. No, so they call the play because they see Kaori take that wave, right? So once Kaori takes that wave and steps into the brush, they know that Kaori's on reset, and that's the window to really just try this, right? So I actually really like that call from Team Liquid, and it looks like they reset bot, and then once they see Surdy take an extra wave, they just do it. That's going to be my guess here. Because this is what happened during the replay. We were going over it on the broadcast, and we walked out to them taking the Baron. So they didn't drop exit wards on their way out, and then they didn't show mid for a while.
And then by the time they check it out, it's already down. Exactly. Yeah. So smart read of Team Liquid to see this. If they hadn't gotten this Baron, the game could have been a little more dicey, because if Evil Geniuses get another fight at that Baron, I mean, we already saw what they were able to do in that last one. And still, some of those fights were very close, and EG was winning it. They came back from, what, 7,000 gold deficit. Yeah. So still insane regardless, but I feel like that moment, that decision from Team Liquid was probably the most pivotal part of that game from their perspective, because otherwise, you got to just reset new battle lines and fight for that Baron next time.
Yeah, I think that, like, for the side of EG, I mean, the one thing that Team Liquid, like, really struggled to, I guess, deal with is the Jinx, right? And I think that the way that, like, you wanted to play in the Jinx that time is have Armeo engage on an individual, take out the first member of the fight, and then just play with a numbers advantage with Bjergsen from there, right? Because if you trade, even if Armeo trades 1-for-1, you have that Zillion res. But there was the one fight that Bjergsen was charmed up and wasn't able to get the Zillion res off. There was another fight where EGA was able to kind of split everyone up and actually make some good things happen. And then that fight in the bot river where Surdy just went off and got the triples. So Team Liquid, they had a humongous lead. They were able to snowball that into a victory in the end. But I think the Seraphine and the Zillion was a kind of a creative answer from Soligo. And I want to see if anyone else can actually, like, adopt that and, you know, try and bring that on the stage, because Zillion is something that we kind of expect to see from Bjergsen on the stage at some point, no matter what the meta.
Yeah, no matter what the meta, but interesting in Academy. I expected a different look from Bjergsen to come in and try and maybe carry a little more, but it's also good that he's willing to take that backseat and say, no, we're going to enable the rest of the team, and it still came down to the wire. Incredible series, fantastic stuff, but with that said, we got another series, one final one to close out the day, guys. We got Cloud9 Academy taking on CLG Academy. Now, this is an interesting one, especially when Cloud9 Academy or Cloud9 rather, as an org, had that statement saying, hey, our focus here is for our Academy team to lift up our LCS team. We want a scrim partner, somebody that we can try strategies out with. And when we look at CLG Academy's roster as well, you can see down here, Cloud9 actually, well, let's just stick with them. We'll get to the CLG point afterwards. This isn't the same roster that we expected coming into the season. So, Cubby, talk to me about some of the new names here, because, of course, we did have a couple roster swaps over the weekend. Lawrence, Frostforce, Keitong all coming in. What can you tell me about these players?
Yeah, so Lawrence used to go by Speedo. Speedo was the top laner for C9 Amateur this past year. Keitong, someone that we first saw in Scouting Grounds, someone that was very high up on the ladder as a Yuumi, Lulu, mostly Enchantress player. And then I got to leave the next one to Rafa. So all you, Mark.
It's Jacob Frostforce Chan, man. One of the few, if not, I think the only pro player from Utah. So that's always like a little pride right there, as, you know, it's pretty much.
You got this weird pride for your state of Utah, man.
We don't have that much esports out here, so anytime that someone makes it big,
not everybody can be blessed like Minnesota. I mean, Moon, Wiggly, come on. That's already double.
I feel like if we're like talking about states, I feel like we've really just, you know, like kind of gone down a couple pegs here on the stream.
Jokes.
I'm a fan of people from this state.
State pride aside, and I've known Frostforce for a very long time, since 2020 when he was still in collegiate on the Harrisburg University roster, and back then he was someone that was, you know, more on the reserve side and a high elo solo queue player, famous for things like the Kane back in the day. But I think the greatest thing about Frostforce is actually his growth and his ability to become a leader, because I didn't expect that when I first met him in person, but over time, through his after moving to Winthrop University on collegiate, they won collegiate 2021 with that roster as well. Frostforce really coming up huge and expanding his champion pool. He even adopted the Lee Sin as well, something a champion he was never really known for in the past until his time on TSM Amateur, and they made a pretty decent run. They didn't make it into the Summer Proving Grounds tournament, but they made it pretty damn far, and I had them as one of the dark horses for that Unified Grand Prix tournament at the end of August. So I'm really excited that Frostforce is actually coming in for Cloud9, even if just as a sub.
Yeah, we already saw the top laner of that TSM AM team, Eclipse, do rather well in his 2-0 at the start of the day, too. So a lot of players from that team. Also, Tails JJ, the new coach of C9 Academy, has actually worked with all these subs, used to coach over at Harrisburg, so has a relationship with these players as well. So hopefully we can see some of that come through when they hit the Rift to try and sub in, to try and get the C9 Academy boys
exactly.
Some good
a lot
games
of subs
today.
coming in. Hopefully they've had time to practice going up against CLG Academy. Now, the reason that I liked to compare these teams is because, Cubby, you actually had an interesting note when we were looking at these teams, as both of them seem like, in maybe different ways, can lift up the LCS roster. So what are we thinking about this CLG Academy, and why is that the case?
Yeah, so of course C9 put out an announcement video that it was out there. I think that regardless of what the video, the content's in it, I think that the approach for C9 makes a lot of sense for them this year, right? They're one of the top orgs that we have had historically in the LCS, and they want their academy team to, the main focus of that is to really push their LCS team and make sure that they're going to do well at Worlds. I totally get that, right? They're one of the orgs that should be competing for Worlds every single year, and that's understandable. Now, on the flip side for CLG, they have an LCS team that is pretty much the Academy All-Stars of 2021, right? Minus Palafox, everyone else was probably the best player in their position in Academy, with
at least top
debates,
three. I think pushing top three for sure.
Yeah. So a lot of people view that as like a riskier build, and I think it shows the fact that CLG. I mean, I think that any of these players in Academy can actually slot in the LCS if things go haywire, and this team has the most experience out of any Academy team when it comes to splits in Academy out of everyone else that we have, especially with all the subs that we have week one. So I actually have some pretty high expectations for this team. I think it's worth noting as well that a lot of the core, including the coaching staff, came over from Golden Guardians Academy as their manager, Jonathan, did as well, the new GM for CLG, Kamikaze Platypus. So I think bringing some
also
of that
Coach
in, too,
Juice,
is pretty cool.
Oceanic Casters. I mean, we saw what Spawn's been able to do, so good track record already right there. Rafa, before we head into pick and ban here, I hear Prismal's still looking for a confirmed duo name for him and Breezy. Do you have anything in mind? I got a couple, but I kind of want to hear your thoughts.
Anytime that they stomp a lane, they should call themselves Easy Preezy.
Easy Preezy. I like that.
Yeah.
It ain't easy being Preezy. Yeah. I feel like that could work.
Okay, Cubby, do you have one? Do you have another option?
No, I made Rafa's option cooler, as always.
Classic marketing.
We're just
Classic marketing.
The casual
take an idea and sell it. I'm gonna give a new one. I'm gonna give one that I thought of while we were getting ready for this match. Prismal. I know it's a press sound, but I kind of like pricey. You know, if you're gonna gank this lane, it's gonna be pricey, baby. There's something there. There's something there. Yeah.
Okay. I can see that.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know.
I respect it. And the one that we thought of earlier was Brismal, and we might have ran that by the cohorts, and we got the thumbs down. So that was my initial idea. So therefore,
but the great thing about it is that it's not up to us to decide. It's the community that inevitably makes the nickname for bot lane duos. So everybody be thinking about that. The players have asked already. You have our thoughts, but let us know your opinions. And with that said, we're ready to go into Champ Select. So gentlemen, take it away for the final series.
Goodbye, Kangas. I'll miss you. I'm sorry I trash talked you at the top of the show. I won't do it again.
Rafa, we do have one more piece of homework to do before we hop into pick ban, as we are going to see another LCS mid laner taking the place of an Oceanic mid laner, as Palafox will be sitting in for today's series. Triple, much like Harry, still in Australia, still trying to get those players over. Both teams are really hoping to have their Academy mid laners over by next week, but until then, we've got Palafox in the mid lane for CLG today.
Already flying through the bands. Viego, Lee Sin, Eaton off the table, trying to deny powerful picks for Rosethorn, as Rosethorn in his Academy debut last year over on Golden Guardians Academy didn't start off on the best footing, but by the end had some greater showings, because Rosethorn having to transition from being known for their Elise and Rek'Sai early aggressive gameplay, shifting more into taking more resources and farming up and playing a variety of styles and really learning a lot. And so even though Rosethorn is still a newer player, he is now one of the more experienced players compared to some of the new people that we have on the Rift.
Yeah, and I think that immediately actually banning that Viego, Rosethorn with 19 plays on the Viego had a 74% win rate. So one of the reasons that we might see that on the ban list right away. C9 paying some respect, but Rosethorn will get their hands on the Xin Zhao, and it is a first pick Jinx for the side of C9. So this, of course, gives CLG, you got to play around the get excited passive. You have to play around the range. And I'm curious to see what CLG elects to pick early in the season, as we have seen a lot of Jinxes do very well, including into this matchup, as it looks to be Jinx into Aphelios. And now we have to see if C9 picks up that Thresh.
Thresh is available, actually, for the first time today to be able to be to pair up with. Now, Cloud9 are in a little bit of a debate right now. Oh, okay, so almost thinking about picking up their top laner with the Gragas, but now not only the Trundle being locked in for Frost Forest to count as an answer to the Xin Zhao, but also now the Lulu. It's not the Thresh for additional safety with the Dark Passage, but it is a little bit of a stat stick. You're going to now get the Whimsy for the extra attack speed, as well as the Wild Growth.
Yeah, and this draft for C9, I like the Trundle and the Xin Zhao matchup. Makes it feel so bad for the Xin to go in. Now, the Lantern will help with that, but of course, you use Lantern on Xin Zhao. You don't have it for the Aphelios, right? So CLG already looks to be committing to a little bit more of an early game-centric composition. And let's see how C9 rounds this one out. And something that I must say, we will be tracking for the entirety of this split. How many Renekton picks C9 has, as, of course, This is a team coached by LS. Now, catching up with Copy beforehand, LS is still remote, working with a lot of the players that are still in Korea. But I think one of the fun storylines of this year is, seeing a lot of the ideas that LS has preached on all of his streams come to fruition and see how well they do on the big stage, and including how some of the picks may not do on the stage, because he is very anti-Renekton. And Renekton is one of Speedo's most played, now known as Lawrence. So we're going to be looking early.
Yeah, it is.
He does have to blind top.
Yeah, it is funny that you bring up Copy, because that is the target for CLG in these two bans, with the Syndra and the Victor being taken off the table. And when you ban Victor, you do not want to hand over the Corki for free either, as that would have been a nasty handshake. Ooh. But this opens up our first Vex game of the Academy season.
Yeah, we already saw CLG Palafox. The one win that CLG picked up in the lock-in was on Vex. It was a really big game from Palafox's Vex, and we talked about how with this early draft, it looks like you got to play early, get a little bit more of a snowball going into C9's composition, as they look to be scaling very hard. Vex can do that with her ults and her rotates and her resets. So gonna have to see if Palafox can execute upon that, as Copy gonna be sticking to a control mage, a lot of zone control. And I do like the Orianna into the Aphelios and the Vex. Feel like this makes life a lot more difficult for the side of CLG trying to pilot through these team fights.
Was getting debated by the hover.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
They flashed the Diana. I was talking to Frostforce before the game. I know that Diana's been not necessarily a champion they've been, prioritizing, but it's right now we both share an affinity for that champion right now during the preseason. But an Aurelia for Dokla will be locked in. This is one way to really throw down the gauntlet.
Dokla is a carry player, right? Most played last split with Jace, a lot of Renekton, a lot of Camille. And I like Dokla really taking some onus on himself and saying, you know what? This team comp, this is a nightmare to team fight later in the game. So I'm going to take Aurelia, try and win hard early, try and play through sides and see if we can find another win con that way. Whereas C9 on the blue side, if anyone's been watching LCK, I know the joke has been Korea 9. This is a very LCK draft. So having the Gragas, having that Orianna, all this zone control to pair up with the Jinx. If C9 is able to play these fights, though, if they're able to get this comp off the ground early, it will be easy cruising for them in the later stages of the game, as playing this front-to-back comp. And Gragas on blue, I think the Gragas is the best blind pick top laner right now. I know a lot of teams have been going for Graves. I love the utility that Gragas brings, and want to see if Lawrence can get the most out of that in the top lane, as, of course, he's stepping up big, trying to fill the shoes of Darshan.
I think the other thing as well to consider, when you have basically two very different compositions. We already outlined Cloud9 having a traditional team fighting front to back, all about setting up King for success. One of the longest standing members, not only on this roster, but also just in competitive play over round from his time in Oceania as well. Whereas CLG, they're trying to enable Dokla in this side lane, in the split push. And if he and Palafox can ever find flank opportunities to assassinate King in the backline, then the whole core of the composition for Cloud9 does fall. So I'm expecting to see Rosethorn pay a lot of attention towards the top side of the map, get Dokla ahead, and really snowball this really out of control, in similar manner to how Armeo was able to set up Bradley for success on that Lucian in the other series.
I like the fact that you bring up King, as a lot of people tuning into the stream may not realize how big this guy's trophy case is from playing in the Oceanic region. Something that I know Pastry Time, and I'm sure the coach of CLG Jews very familiar with. Of course, going back to being a player and a caster in the Oceanic region, but we're in NA, and we're in week 1 of Academy. Curious to see what these teams throw at us to kick off today. As, speaking of this early game, Rafa, I really want to see Rosethorn path towards this top lane. I feel like if you have an Aurelia, you got to play towards it. And I think that Rosethorn, you talked about how he showed a lot of growth and a lot of ability as an enabling jungler, someone that can get those ganks off and really make games volatile and get his team ahead early. Good chance to prove that this game, as I think getting ahead early is the name of the game here for CLG.
I'm just happy we're on the same page, Cup. This is... Because if you don't get this Aurelia ahead, what's the point of picking it? You're going to get I don't want to say outscaled, but it will be so damn hard.
Oh, no.
Oh.
I mean, Aurelia scales out of her mind, right? But team fights get so hard for CLG to execute.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, it's not the concept of scaling as an individual, but it's more just how difficult to execute when it comes to front-to-back team fights. As we already outlined before, it's going to be all about those flanks. And so far, with the opening jungle route, Rosethorn is actually pathing from top to bot, so it's not going to be able to assist Dokla for any early 2-3 minute gank timers here, but will be poised around the bottom side of the map. I wonder if CLG actually want to try and snowball Prismal.
Yeah, so CLG with the Jinx Lulu, the AoE rockets, it looks like C9 has Shove and Rosethorn skipping over the blue, so doing the Gromp. This is the fastest 3 camp that you can do, and the healthiest to try and get out onto the map. Curious if he makes his way towards the bot lane here, as there are no trinkets for the side of C9, and they are pushed up, but instead looks like he's on the blue buff.
Frostforce also going for a not quite similar full clear out his blue jungle, but now with the red buff, while still level 3, knows that Rosethorn will still only be level 3 and is going to go for an invade. He has the push priority from King and Keetong in the bottom side of the map. Frostforce not able to get any vision control, but has the say and the priority to lock down the Scuttle Crab if he wants to go for it. And so far, they just have kind of the advantage to be able to push Rosethorn back.
And I like this from Frostforce, just, pathing towards that priority, making sure you get that first crab. And honestly, I feel like this is a really good start for C9. The fact that no action went down in this first clear for Rosethorn, we have a big emphasis on making sure that CLG is able to get ahead and play from ahead this game if you want to have a chance. Rosethorn able to farm up, but, not able to make plays on the map is just now he's going to start to show his face. We're going to see if they can find something on the Speedo.
Dokla interrupting Lawrence's body slam, but he's a big boy, and Rosethorn can't get in range to supplement any further damage, so Lawrence not necessarily phased by the gank attempt. He is running low on mana at the moment, so probably will have to teleport at some point, but the tier start and the biscuits are going to keep him sustained for quite some time.
And C9 just gets to sit back, wait on. They're getting their farm. All was good. And as long as Doke was able to get this wave in, all should be fine for CLG as well. As Lawrence...
That's a huge level up, though. Lawrence might have overestimated his ability to tank that. And Dokla capitalizing on the level up finds first blood.
Said that Doko's a carry player, and I think they're really showing that he knows his limits on this champion, able to find that first kill. This is key. I think Aurelia is the way that CLG can break the composition, break what C9 wants to do. Because if there's one thing that C9 doesn't do well, it is side lane. As we get another look. Big thing here for Dokla. He levels off his cannon. Lawrence was not expecting it. Able to use that Q to sidestep the barrel as well as Dokla. Flashing that sad B. Shout out to Arrow, his old teammate from Wildcard Red, of course. Very enthusiastic about the B-modes.
Rosethorn hasn't found any gank success in the early game, but props to Dokla being able to find first blood. As you already mentioned, this is a team that is really reliant on getting a massive snowball in the side lanes for CLG Academy. If Aurelia can get on the board, and they found a pick onto Keetong's going to have to flash away. This is a very squishy Lulu. The flash forward from Rosethorn trying to follow up. Palafox looking for the Looming Darkness and the Mistral Bolt. But Rosethorn is the one that actually falls. Keetong is still alive. Prismal is not going to join the party, which forces Frostforce to flash over the wall. Prismal's going to flash, and now he's... it's a one-way trip. He's making sure that he takes down the jungler, but King is the one that benefits off of Prismal.
And a huge win for the side of C9 as... CLG, they just kind of walked in, and once they weren't able to get Keetong on the Lulu, everything kind of fell apart, fell to the wayside as... it was just Trundle free hitting for the majority of that fight.
Honestly, I did not expect it to pan out that well for C9, because as we take a look at the replay, the way it started out, Keetong, I thought he was pretty much dead.
It was a really nice pillar from the side of Frostforce, because Rosethorn was forced to flash, and I think Rosethorn actually cast the E onto Frostforce, which of course Does a little bit of AoE damage, but does more on the first member that hits. So I think that helped Keaton get out. Prismal takes the one-way trip for the trade, something we expect out of Prismal. But also something that I know, speaking with Prismal, he's trying to work on this year. As, of course, Prismal, someone that has won Academy before in 2019 spring, reunited with Breezy, the bot lane that 100 Thieves had in spring of 2020. And Prismal definitely someone that feels like one of the strongest players at his position in the marksman role, and someone who, you know, I like to talk to these Academy players about what they worked on in the offseason. And for Prismal, he was like, I think I can make the flashy plays. Sometimes I go for it too much, and those look ugly. And I'm trying to eliminate those. So one flashy play for Prismal that might have went sideways, but definitely going to have to keep our eyes out on this stubby AD marksman that has been really making a name for himself in Academy the last few years, and has a chance to do so for this
4v2 onto Keaton, knowing that he doesn't have flash, and it's just so damn clean. Easy breezy for Prismal and Breezy.
I mean, that all goes to Palafox, right? He's the one that ended up crashing the wave and getting the roam to make sure that they had this 4v2 dive in the bot side. Really nice work with Rosethorn, but Rosethorn, that's an expensive gank for him. As take a look at Frost Force, taking away that red, now able to rotate to the Rift Herald next for the side of C9, and I think Rift Herald is the big priority in the early game. C9 just able to crash these two waves mid and have the push top. This is going to enable Frost Force to start that Herald on his own if he wants, but instead actually walking top, trying to protect Lawrence here.
He is further extended, and the pillar onto Dokla, knowing that he doesn't have flash available, popping the Subjugate as well. Nice explosive cast, trying to distance Lawrence away from Dokla. Oh. Super low as Dokla was ramping up the Blade Surge, almost in range to take down Lawrence, but Frost Force is able to come out on top.
That was actually really close from Dokla. If that chomp didn't come out from Frost Force, I think one more auto would have taken down Lawrence, but not the case. Now, the one positive for CLG is that because that play was attempted, now it takes C9's ability to make a play on the map, and looks like it's to trade a Rift Herald for bot plates, but hey, this is something else that LS always preached quite a bit. It's better to get the Soul Gold XP on your AD and the plates as well, and it's paying off huge here for C9 as King is going to get 3 plates for himself. Not to mention solo gold and XP, and feels like C9, the team that really heavily outscales CLG, especially in the 5v5, are putting together a rather nice
Now, Prismal is able to answer back, at least with some plates of his own, and the Rift Herald crashing. It's going to guarantee first break.
That will be first break.
First break gold going over to CLG Academy, and look at that. Breezy and Rosethorn are also going to leave Prismal to his own devices so that he gets a majority of the gold for themselves. C9 Academy down just under 2,000 gold at this point. Still holding on. I have to remind everyone at home that there is a massive team fighting scaling advantage for Cloud9 Academy as long as they are playing front to back. But with Dokla starting to come online a bit, Blade of the Ruined King, if he finds those flanks, gonna keep iterating that throughout the game. That's what we have to watch out for as we get towards that mid game.
I mean, not even those flanks, but just how many members can he draw to the side then, right? Because Dokla already well ahead of the power curve, even after that unfortunate death. He almost traded that one out, the top side. But Aurelia, I mean, this is someone that, a champion that if she is able to, you know, have a side lane to herself, there is no way that either Orianna or Gragas can stick around in that lane. I mean, it's going to require 2 minimum as this game goes on. So CLG, 1.5k gold lead on the right member. I still like the position that C9 is in early, given how hard their composition scales, and also the ease of execution as well. But CLG, their win con is at least ahead, right?
Huge W for CLG Academy right now. Gale Force also completed for Prismal, thanks to not only the dive that they made in the 4v2 on the bot side of the map, but also the Rift Herald crashing into the top tier 1 turf for first brick. Prismal, obviously, you know, Aphelios isn't like online, but, you know, relative to everyone else on the map, he's pretty damn strong, and I imagine that it's going to be very hard for Cloud9 Academy to contest this dragon.
He is strong, but I mean, this is where the C9 draft is really nice. They have so many tools to deal with Aphelios. I mean, you have the zone control from Orianna, you have a Gragas barrel, and as long as Lawrence has flash up, that's extremely deadly for Prismal. Not to mention Trundle Pillar too. Prismal did opt for the Gale Force, I think very intelligent to try and maybe sneak out of a Shockwave or a cast coming out from the members of C9, but everything in this game outranges Interaxum. So gonna be on CLG to make sure they're the ones closing the gap, making sure that Prismal is able to get that damage off safely, and it's not them just being kept at range and King melting them, as this wave has been shoved out. C9 do own the river, but have yet to start this dragon.
Yeah, CLG started taking a couple of hits at it, and then they backed off. Didn't want to miss out on the minion wave that was pouring in. Something that we didn't get a chance to touch on, Cubby. This has been a nasty freeze that Dokla has set up, and it's been really bad news bears for Lawrence, who has not been able to touch it for quite some time, which is why Lawrence is trying to be productive and get some vision control on the top side of the map, but he is slowly being bled out on both gold and experience.
So one of the reasons that I really like Gragas as a blind pick right now is usually you're able to stick around in most lanes. Unfortunately for Lawrence, given the early play that Dokla made, really going to have trouble in this one. But the other reason I like Gragas as a blind pick is that you're always useful, right? If you have Flash, Body Slam, Cast, you can always make a huge play in the game. So the fact that Lawrence is being starved out of resources, not ideal, but also not the worst thing in the world for C9. And like I said, the fact that they're only down 1k gold at the moment, they also were able to pick up that first dragon. Feels like they're at an okay point considering what the comp is.
This does make it more difficult, though, for Cloud9 Academy to successfully send someone to answer Dokla in the side lane, because Lawrence right now, he's got a little bit of a garage sale going on. He's got Wardens, Bomby, and Tyr. So he hasn't been able to pick up that first item completion quite yet, and is nowhere near at a state where he can at least survive Dokla, let alone handle him. So he's going to be waiting on an item completion before he's tanky enough that can sustain through the all-in potential burst, as right now the threat from CLG Academy able to rotate enough members over to the bottom side of the map to take down this turret, but now it's Cloud9 Academy who are trying to answer back. Coffee has rotated on over as well. Nice pillar onto Prismal. Dark Passage is available. It's a flash from Breezy that will be expended so Prismal can maintain his own summoner spells.
Good teamwork there from the CLG bot lane, and yeah, Flash is down on the Thresh, but guess what? Plates are gone. Prismal picked up 10 plates on his own. This is a big Aphelios, as he was able to take down the top lane turret and bot too. So I mean, we talked about how everything that C9 has does out-interact the Aphelios, but it's really going to be on CLG. Can Palafox, Rosethorn, Dokla, Breezy pull off clean engages, isolate members of C9, and enable Prismal to be able to step up and hit the members that he needs to hit. If so, he is so fed at the moment.
Oh, Looming Darkness into personal space, gets a nice fear. No further damage, as Copy already forced the Shockwave and the Flash back against CLG Academy, who were looking for potential play. Copy will be alive enough. Oh, Gale Force and Prismal, Moonlight Vigil. Keitong not going to take any chances, just pops the Wild Growth to protect their mid laner.
I think importantly enough was at least able to buy some more time, as King is now the one that has to answer this mid lane. Was enable Dokla to free hit in the bot lane, as Dokla is still getting insanely far ahead on this Aurelia with that first item Blade of the Ruin King now completed. And, you know, I guess while we have a pause, Copy, I will say one of the two returning members for C9 in this game. And I think for Copy, oh, never mind.
Don't worry, he's got the Dark Pass. He's fine. Frost. Oh, wait, that's a lot of damage from Copy, and Rosethorn might have bitten off more than he could chew. Has the flash away. Dokla on the flank, though. No Shockwave available. Dokla's just trying to tear things up, but gets rooted up, and just not enough damage in the tank. Explosive cast from Lawrence off the back of a teleport. Finds another pick onto Breezy, and that's a double for Frost Force.
And that's how quick C9 can strike when they group. Palafox was not there, did not have the ultimate, as Copy almost goes down, but C9, I mean, they just pulled the trigger, right? Dokla was rotating to say, Lawrence, you can answer with TP. We're going to split people up, isolate you, and take you down one by one. Exactly what C9 was able to do in that fight, as they did a good job of playing towards their composition.
At first I was scared for Cloud9 Academy, thinking, oh man, CLG Academy are really about to just wipe the floor, but then just not enough damage from Dokla. And at the Blade of the Ruin King, Do we credit APA for the Chem Tank Aurelia build that is about to come up for Dokla?
No. I don't want to give him the ego.
He's going to call you a snake afterwards.
Yeah, no. If we do get the look here from that last fight, I think the big difference is the fact that Dokla, I mean, it was a big engage, but he was isolated, right? 1v4 polymorph from Petong as Death Sentence connects, but doesn't find anything for Breezy. But I mean, once again, if CLG wants to, get Cryo on sides, then try and collapse, that's A-okay. Like, that is their game plan, but they have to be a little bit more careful with doing so, and now Dokla in big trouble. TP going to be committed.
Dokla gonna use the Blade Surge to back on out. Palafox using their teleport just to ensure that Dokla isn't in a 2v1. Always fight among comrades is the goal here.
And that's another tool that C9 just put out, right? Now Copy has that TP over Palafox. Thankfully for CLG, they do have Cryo, but that's a big ult not connecting for Prismal. And keep in mind, this is a good setup for C9. If they're able to group up as 5, walk in as a group, this is exactly where CLG is going to struggle. Vex, Aphelios, you got to have clean engages to try and make the space to take down C9, and CLG already on the back foot.
No teleport available for Palafox, so can't find a flank. Dokla is looking for one of his own, but there's a ward spotting his entry right now. So Cloud9 very aware of it. Lawrence acting as the bodyguard right now. And Cloud9 are keeping CLG at a hand's distance.
I like this a lot from Lawrence, and now all of a sudden Dokla, he's in big trouble.
He still has flash, but he's in the thick part of the woods right now. But they're trying to turn it on. Palafox trying to find the engage, but Copy immediately snap, return, and response with the shockwave, and Rosethorn getting zoned out by King with these rockets, thanks with the help picks as well. Super Mega Death Rocket gonna be blocked by Breezy. It'll be enough to deter and push CLG Academy away for the secure of the second dragon for Cloud9.
And Rafa, C9's down 2k gold, right? Like, they are down on the map, like on the scoreboard, but they are able to just group up as 5. And I mean, a lot of the difficulties that we were talking about in draft really shining here for CLG, right? King outranging everyone with the buffs from Lulu. Lawrence just able to mark Dokla, make sure that he's never able to get involved, and even if they do, you have Frost Force with the Trundle who just steals your stats. So the setup for C9 around these dragons, if they're able to get in the river first, it's so difficult for CLG. And I really want to see if CLG are able to make picks happen, set up some traps so that C9 just don't get access to that.
Yeah, and catching up with Frost Force before this game, one of the things that he told me about when I asked him what has been working with the C9 team compared to previous teams like TSM Amateur or Winthrop University, and one of the outright strengths that he noted on was, the games that we are losing are so comebackable just due to our drafts and just the champions that, or the teammates that are piloting the champions that we have. Right? So he's giving a lot of credit not only to the success that the coaching staff is setting them up for, but also just praise for his teammates on their abilities to pilot these champions in general.
I mean, we're an academy, right? It's about play for scaling, right? Well, we don't always meet in drafts, but, usually that's meant for player skill, but we can easily readapt that for this game in C9. And to be fair, 3 emergency subs looking really good in this game. Yeah, they're down gold, but we love their composition as the game goes on, and really starting to see some of that come to fruition as Lawrence will be forced to flash inside.
Just avoiding on the potential all-in. It does mean that there will not be a body slam flash available as a tool to re-engage. Now Dokla pushing in Lawrence. Lawrence has teleport available, but Dokla wants to hang around in Fog of War, forcing Cloud9 Academy back to make sure they don't overextend in the mid-wave. That would have otherwise opened up a flank opportunity for Dokla there. CLG Academy with still having the lead on their side, but they are needing to find ways to close out this game before it goes too late.
And I know that that's also something that, Copy brought up on the side of C9. Just the fact that, he said when you have your coach, it's like, outside of the country, things do get a tad bit more difficult, but he said that, his view of the game has already really changed in terms of how C9 play it. And I think we're seeing a lot of that in this one's Copy. That's a shockwave.
Yeah. Palafox doesn't have flash available. That's just easy pickings for Cloud9.
Man, Palafox getting caught out by the Trundle Pillar. Good rotations from Frost Forest, as I think as long as Dokla is spotted on the map, C9 just have free reign to make any play they want elsewhere.
Even I didn't even notice this. Phosphor is picking up the Anathemas Chain's second item. I mean, man. I know Phosphorus in the past usually likes to go for more self-indulgent items, but, you know, his time on Cloud9 Academy really putting him into, hey, we're playing for the team. We're playing for low jungle econ, and Anathema's Chain is just such a great item to not only make one damage dealer not as potent against you when you're going in for these team fights, but also just making your pillar even more deadly and catching out a member like Prismal or Palafox, who doesn't really have an escape outside of Flash.
I mean, Rafa, you say low jungle econ, but he has 5 kills. So I feel like I'm playing jungle with you. I don't appreciate you stealing all the kills as the Trundle, but, you know, that's fine. We're just going to have to get into this next
dragon. You just got to get better, Cubby. That's all I'm going to say.
I know. Yeah, you got to earn them. You got to earn them, right? Speaking of earning them, Dragon, 1 minute, going to be on the table yet again. We're going to have to see if C9 can pull off a setup as clean as their last one, as C9 have everyone in base, and Frostforce looking already.
Breezy forced the flash away from the pillar. Nice looming shadow is going to get the fear down on the Frostforce from Palafox, making sure that there's no further engagement from Cloud9, but already getting a summoner spell out practically for nothing.
And this just makes the setup so much harder for the side of CLGA. Look at all the real estate they have to seed, as everything in the river is C9's. As they're here, Oops the 5-stack. Lawrence, importantly enough, does not have Flash. So that is, I think, the real big go button for the side of C9. If they don't have the Flash on Lawrence, then they're going to have to do a little bit more zoning and fishing. And it already seems like CLG realize how dire that Dragon setup is. They have shifted their power to the top side of the map. Dokla's hitting this turret. They have seeded this Dragon, so this will be Soul Point going over to C9.
This is Ocean Soul as well, which is just even more difficult for CLG Academy to deal with when the game goes late. They have a lot of burst potential in Palafox and just Dokla being able to try and assassinate targets, but if Cloud9 are keeping CLG at range, they can trade up and they can sustain off the damage, being able to answer back, as Rosethorn not necessarily caught out. Frostforce trying to see if he can force something. Moonlight Vigil on the King, a lot of damage forward. Gale Force aggressively. Does that open up Prismal to go down? He goes down! Subjugate is there, and Palafox trying to answer back, but it's not enough damage! King will stay alive! Not even needing the Wild Growth as they use it for Frostforce to keep the jungler alive, but all 5 members of Cloud9 still up on the Rift.
Oh, Shockwave barely goes wide as the pillar slightly did move Rosethorn out of the way, but C9, they have the option to potentially look at Baron, but also if you're C9, I mean, what's the rush, right? This game for them, they're sitting on Ocean Soul, they scale out of this world. I mean, there's absolutely no rush for C9, and it looks like they're going to get their camps and just reset instead of push for the Baron. Do like this call from them, but man, they're really putting the clamps on CLG.
And even Lawrence, who has pretty much been Flame Horizon at this point, doesn't matter. As you already said it out, he's Gragas, he's a tank. We take a look back at this replay, how this all turned.
And Prismal, it's ult from Frostforce, it is Red Smite, he just ends up melting, and honestly a little bit unlucky for the side of C9 that, or CLG I should say, that Prismal went down and Palafox wasn't able to get King as he survived with like, it looks like 10, 20 HP, but everything's still coming up C9's way in this game, Mark, as, I mean, this feels like when we, you know, go into Cast Academy, we usually expect bloodbaths. This is a very different approach from C9, and the way they've been playing the map as a team, I mean, yeah, Lawrence has a huge CS deficit, but he's still been in the right spots at the right time and has made it so hard for CLG just to be able to win this game in the 5v5s.
And the build paths for the front line of Cloud9 Academy is really coming fully online at this point. I mean, the Divine Sunder, obviously a more aggressive start for the early mid-game, but now Frozen Heart on top of the Anathema's Chains. Anathema's Chains act at the Palafox, and then the Frozen Heart is going to do enough work against all the auto-taxers in Rosethorn and Dokla and Prismal. Teleport's coming in, though. Palafox looking for the flank. It's immediately answered by Lawrence, who will be here to deter anyone from getting on top of his backline.
And King actually gets in a reset here. So, I mean, I'm curious to see what CLG is going to do, as this composition for them, it's, I feel like they almost have, like, you can't sack Ocean Soul, but can you even fight for Ocean Soul? Like, it feels like that Dokla just hasn't been able to get enough done on the sides to really amount or surmass like a amount of gold on himself that's big enough to break what C9 is able to do in the 5v5. And because of that, I mean, I think we're just going to see a rinse and repeat at this 4th Dragon Rafa. I mean, there is really nothing that CLG can do to actually, you know, get in range and be ready to contest this objective.
Yeah, one flank tool already used in Palafox's TP.
Yeah.
Dokla has TP, but as we've seen from the past 2 fights, this Aurelia has not been enough to really stop the Jinx from getting her roll on. You have so many defensive abilities. Wild Growth. Frost Force can even subjugate the Aurelia just to make sure that she melts faster. Now, Frost Force might be caught out here. Doesn't have Flash available. Just getting subjugated, and now Dokla going to try to round off to a beautiful 2-man stun with the flawless duet. King finally gets shut down, but it's a massive shockwave response from Copy. They'll be able to take out Dokla. Looks like Rosethorn will also fall as well. Prismal, now finally, he doesn't get answered by Cloud9's own marksman. He's the one that gets to clean up the fight afterwards.
I want to see CLG push it. Start the Baron. This might be your best chance to come back in this game. And what a find from Dokla as he found both Copy and King with that ultimate and the E to follow. As CLG, they're pushing the pace. They're going to try and take this. This is tricky for them. Lawrence is just going to get a lot of chip damage as it still feels like this might be the best way to come back in the game. And it's enough for them to get forced off. And now Ocean is up in 30 seconds. It's sold for C9. So wait, reset for CLG. Oh, man.
No teleport available still for Palafox. Dokla will has his, but Copy is going to be able to teleport right back on the map for Tempo if they need it. So Cloud9 bolting from the base. There's the teleport from Copy, making sure that he can link up with Lawrence. He's not going to have mana for this fight, but in terms of number strength and already Cloud9 being first to the pit, I can't imagine CLG having ease of being able to walk in.
I think this is just gone.
Yeah, the Shockwave is going to gatekeep the rest of CLG Academy. They're a little too late, and now they're split on 3 ends right now. Dokla is going to get the Dark Patches to safety on out, and Palafox is on the other side of the map. Shockwave still available. Palafox is he going to go in with the Shadow Surge, tries to get a 3-man fear onto the backline of Cloud9 Academy, but King is able to distance himself away, and now it's just clean up city. Cloud9 Academy in just an instant, wipe out 4.
Look at how they play that front to back. They just wait for Palafox to jump in, shut him down, and move on from there as this comp is built for King to carry. King is doing just that as, yeah, the last fight, Dokla found an awesome angle on him, but not this time. They get the front to back, and things are easy peasy for the side of C9, not CLG, as, man, I really like this draft coming out of C9, and I think it really shows the power of Gragas. I mean, it doesn't matter how far behind you are all useful.
I mean, he's down 120 CS. Doesn't matter. You're still a frontline. You're still a tank.
He's got a frozen heart and a 3 auto attackers. That's sick.
Dude, as soon as I saw the Warden's Mail rush after the tier, I was like, oh, man. Now, Lawrence knows. And now let's take a look back at this replay.
Yeah, I mean, Ocean's down. CLG, it's still tough for them to come back. But once you lose the flank, I mean, they know that Palafox is coming in from the side, right? They can easily be able to infer this. And, yeah, Prismal tries to commit with the team, but it's pretty much just Frost Force sitting there with a Trundle ult, tanking everything up. Takes down the Aphelios on his own. And this game, it's been a really good look from C9, I must say. And I really think that CLG not doing anything in their first 2 clears hurt them as this one went on. Because once you get out of those first 2 clears unscathed on the side of C9, and we've seen how easy it is for them just to group up, just to zone out Aphelios. I mean, Prismal got 10 plates, and he hasn't been allowed to do anything in this game, given all the zone control that C9 took, and how they've been able to execute it.
Dokla got the 1 solo kill off of just kind of an improper read from Lawrence and not respecting the level up. Only kill that he's been able to get this game. You got some assist money in some of the other previous fights thanks to the flawless duet stun, but they did not get a chance to really snowball this Aurelia to the point where it was pulling Cloud9 resources to the other side of the map, because it's now Cloud9 that are knocking on the doors of CLG Academy's base.
And this second inhibitor should fall as easily as first. We're going to have to see if C9 bases after this or they just sprint up to the top lane as CLG cannot contest. And, I mean, everything coming up roses here for the side of C9 as, I mean, I really think that given these 3 subs that we had coming in late, we were not expecting this. We expect CLG to be one of the stronger Academy teams, and I mean, C9, this draft and execution of it has just been really nice from them.
At this point, it's just so hard to actually deal with this Cloud9 composition once they're grouped up as 5. And it's never going to feel like there's a window where you can find King all by his lonesome. He's always going to be linking up with the rest of his homies. It is so late in the game, and they are just taking down structures one by one. Super minions pouring through the middle inhibitor, through the bottom inhibitor. Dokla and Palafox respectively have to answer those side lanes, which just then leaves Cloud9 to barrel down through the top lane and start knocking away at the final inhibitor.
And no way to stop or engage on the King. It's going to take a miracle. Death sentence with Frostforge can stand in front of.
With all the shields coming, King just tanked all the turret shots. It just doesn't even matter. And he can life seal back off the minion wave. All 3 inhibitors are gone now. Next is turrets. Then the next one, CLG Academy. They're itching to find one last defense. But the members of Frost Force and Lawrence are so damn tanky. Rosethorn almost about to go down. Mega Death Rocket does go wide, but Rosethorn will have to sustain back up the base. Nexus turret 1 falls. Prismal trying to keep the members of Cloud9 Academy back, but I imagine with 7,000 gold deficit on their side, it is going to be damn near impossible to defend this. A nice fear on the Frost Force. Wild Growth is used. Subjugate is giving him enough HP as well, but a Shockwave will silence Breezy and Rosethorn, leaving no front line to protect Prismal and Palafox, as now they are easy pickings for the rest of Cloud9 Academy to tear apart. King will fall, but you still have 4 members to deal with, and Palafox cannot 1v4 this one. Cloud9 Academy will close out Game 1.
And what a statement game coming out of C9 Academy. I know that, like, for them, they have 3 subs. They're on 1 week of practice, and man, the idea on blue side, the execution of it as well from the team, they just doused any hope that CLG had in that game after the first 10 minutes, and man, I mean, huge props to C9 on that performance. I really was not expecting them to look so good with this many subs, but props to them, the subs, the coaching staff, everyone. That was a beautiful game.
Yeah, I mean, obviously this wasn't the 100% perfect game from Cloud9. There was, you know, a couple moments, the solo kill from Dokla onto Lawrence, and then the catch onto King and I think it was Keetong, thanks to Dokla finding that flank. Mm-hmm. But apart from that, Cloud9 Academy were, I mean, you could have told me that they had been practicing all off season, and I believe it, because it was almost like a well-oiled machine for a majority of the game, and CLG Academy just had no answer for being able to get in.
Well, I really hope that NA teams take notes and pick more Gragas, as I think that just what Gragas is able to bring to the table, especially in this lethal tempo marksman meta, he can always playmake and displace against those champions, and that is so tough for enemy teams to deal with, and he is so easy to blind on blue side. Big fan. Props to Lawrence and the rest of C9 to be able to pull that off and have a nice game plan around it, and huge shout-outs to your boy, Rafa. Frostforce had a big game on the Trundle, stealing all the kills.
Well, you know, sometimes that's how you stand out, you know. You just gotta put up the numbers, put up the KDA, baby. But, you know, battle Trundle for the first 15 minutes, and then tank frontline Trundle. You know, Frostforce doing his job, and just really, I mean, Keetong as well. All 3 of these subs really coming together and helping the core pieces of this Cloud9 Academy roster in Copy and King still shine. When we come back after this break, we will be looking towards Game 2 of the series, but we do also have some spicy content prepared for you, if I'm not mistaken. So be sure to tune in and stick around. We'll be right back.